Change and innovation, an organizational profile. The organization that we will be talking about today, we're going to look a little bit at the history of the organization, the structure of the organization, and the culture of the organization. The history is, it's a well-established company. It has been around for over 30 years. It is a leader in technology. Started out very small and grew, overcoming incredible obstacles along the way. Because of the feelings that executives had within this company, changes were made and success happened because of those changes, and the company just continued to grow until it became a worldwide company. The structure of the company is fairly simple. You have your executive offices, you have your divisions, departments, and teams. Within this departments, we have these teams that are built with anywhere from 12 to 16 team members and a team manager. And there's 5 to 7 teams per area manager for each department. The culture of the company is really driven by the employees. The old-timers teach the newcomers how everything works within the company, how to think and address situations and speak with their customers, whether they're internal customers or external customers, and doing things right the first time, and considering everybody they talk to their customer and making sure that that customer is taken care of in the very best way possible. Another part of the culture is knowing that it's an ever-changing environment, making sure that changes are expected, that you could do one thing 1 minute and turn around the next minute and do another, and it's expected, therefore it's never a surprise. The best thing about the culture is innovation is encouraged and welcomed. New ideas are embraced and developed, and if it meets a company need or enhances a company process, it is encouraged and developed within the company to improve how everyone does their job. Within this organization, there's a small department of trainers, and within the trainers, there was a need for change. And because of this change, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the process, the reasons for the change, and the actions that were taken. The process. It was said that the way the content was delivered was inefficient and it needed to be changed. So the announcements were sent out to the trainers that this is the process that you should be using to train your teams and your classes. And no additional training was given to those trainers to understand that process and to develop it within their classrooms. The reasons for this was to encourage participation within the classroom setting, getting new students to talk about and understand the development, the process, the technology, and the theory behind how you talk with people and address the needs of a person. The idea was to change the process and enable trainer stress and exhaustion to decrease. At this point, there were 2 trainers in each classroom, and the classrooms were lasted 4 weeks. By the end of the 4 weeks, the trainers were stress levels were very high, exhaustion was very high, and they needed a day or two to recuperate from such a long training session. This was thought to be inefficient, and changing the process would enable 1 trainer per classroom instead of 2, but that trainer would have less stress and wouldn't be as exhausted by using this new method. The action was made by new management. New management came in, announced these changes, And these changes were sent out to the trainers, and then expectations were set for metrics, but no evaluations or surveys were sent out for any kind of feedback to understand whether or not the trainers were enacting the new changes and how they felt about them. Going back and evaluating the change, we're going to talk about the effectiveness of this change, what was done correctly, and what could have been done differently. The effectiveness of change, the very first thing, there was resistance, and that resistance was there for the first year or more because of the way the changes were announced. They didn't put it into practice, and there really wasn't any way to measure the success of the change because of that. Requirements were not met, and trainers were unhappy because they felt as though now that there was only one trainer per classroom, their stress levels were through the roof, and they were so exhausted by the end that many were actually changing departments, and some even went out on sick leave because of it. The changes weren't embraced, and nor were they really supported by management. What management did right was enact the idea. The idea was good, and once management identified the issues of resistance, of lack of training, the changes were made. And once the changes were made, communication was improved, and that encouraged the change even more. Trainers began to understand what the lesson plans were about, what the new delivery system was about. They understood more, and they were able to apply it in their classrooms for a more efficient delivery of the media and materials needed to train the employees. What they needed to do differently is management really needs to know their audience's skill. There was new management. They had not been at the company very long. They didn't understand the processes that were in place, nor did they know their audience or their trainers. The immediate team managers understood what the trainers could do. However, the area manager and the business manager and department heads did not, because they were new and didn't take the time to understand the skills of the trainers involved. They weren't prepared for the resistance. They delivered the announcements and expected everyone to embrace the changes, and didn't check back in to see where everybody was and check the pulse of the department. And then finally, backing up the training or the changes with training. If you back up the changes with the training, it reinforces the changes, and the changes are understood and able to be applied in the classroom and become effective ways of training. If we reflect back on the changes, we're going to talk about the conclusions, handling the change, and final thoughts. One of the conclusions that we came to with this big initiative was that change doesn't happen instantly. It takes time. People need to get used to it. They need to develop their skills to understand it, and practice. Change also needs the buy-in of everyone involved. Everyone that's affected by this change needs to understand what they're for and needs to be on the same page with management for the changes to work. And certainly, finally, the change needs to be reinforced to become a part of the culture, to back it up with training, to back it up with awards and merits for those that do it well, can enable change to become a part of a culture and become deep set within that culture. Once it becomes a part of that culture, it is encouraged to take that new change and watch it develop. And with that happening, new ideas emerge from that change to do things even better than they were doing before. And then celebrate those new ideas as a result of that change. Many employees love being recognized for what they do or what they contribute, and by doing this, it also reinforces that change and makes it a part of the culture. We all know that change is inevitable. It's only as good as its support system, and it can open the doors for other ideas, other innovation. And when that happens, you develop a culture of fresh ideas, of an ever-changing environment, of an exciting environment. But that only happens when it is supported by both the management and the employees.